欢迎收看 Big99前沿观察，本期为您带来 NVIDIA 黄仁勋谈 AI 的精彩内容。
The market obviously concerned with what's happening on the spending side of the hyperscalers and this big build out in AI. What's your take from that, the way the market continues to react to this?
Demand is sky high, and there's a fundamental reason for that. We're in the once-in-a-generation infrastructure build-out. This is the largest infrastructure build-out in human history, and there's a fundamental reason for that. Artificial intelligence is going to fundamentally change how we compute everything. Everything from database processing, the way we do search, the way we do recommender systems, you shop, the way you watch movies, and of course, these new agentic systems that are being developed and evolved. This last year, we saw an inflection point in AI. AI became super useful. No longer hallucinating, it's generating informed content, it's reasoning, it's thinking, it's doing research, it's able to use tools. All of a sudden, AI over the last couple of years went from being curious to super useful. The inflection point also came with it, profitable tokens. Anthropic is making great money. OpenAI is making great money. If they could have twice as much compute, the revenues would go up 4 times as much. I mean, literally, these guys are so compute constrained, and the demand is so incredibly great. The number of enterprise users, the number of consumer users, the number of startups that are being built on top of these companies, it's just going through the roof.
So when you see numbers that are, frankly, remarkable, that $660 billion this year will be spent by the hyperscalers as we continue to learn, like we did from Amazon last night. You sit back and think to yourself, that's completely justified based on what you see?
It is appropriate and sustainable. And the reason for that is because all of these companies' cash flows are going to start rising. You know, people are comparing it to cash flows. One of those numbers are wrong. It's just the cash flow is wrong. We are addressing the largest software opportunity in history. For the very first time, software is not just a tool. A tool is like Excel. Now software uses tools. So these AIs use Excel. And so I think the opportunity for this new era of software is incredible. And we're seeing it already moving the earnings of Meta. Nobody uses AI better than Meta. And so if you look at the way that they're using AI went from a classical recommender system running on CPUs to now a generative AI agentic system that is making recommendations. Everything from the way social media works and the way they recommend ads and help advertisers create content has fundamentally been changed. And their earnings show it. And that's the reason why they're investing so hard. They see just a much larger future potential for it. And not just one company. This is going to affect AWS's shopping and the way they recommend goods. This is going to affect how Microsoft's enterprise software works. Every single company sees the same inflection point, and that's why everybody's leaning in so hard.
I feel like that's the point that it's an interesting point. It sort of turns the way you need to think about these businesses on its head, that if you're just fixated on the spending side, as you were talking earlier about, oh, they're spending such a huge portion of their free cash flow, you're kind of missing the story. The market needs to get its arms around that. Do you as well as an investor?
Yes. If you turn the clock back, Scott, to 2008, 2009, right, Amazon could have taken their profits and sent them back to us by way of dividends. Instead, Jeff Bezos said, I'm going to invest in this thing called AWS. Think of it as digging a gold mine. You have to spend a lot of money to dig the gold mine before you get the gold out. These guys are digging the biggest gold mine in the history of software, right? But it costs something up front. Now the question is, do you believe Andy Jassy and Mark Zuckerberg and Sundar and Jensen that this opportunity is that big, or do you have a special insight that causes you to understand there's no gold in the bottom of the gold mine? As an investor, I'll just tell you this. I want my personal net worth, I want my fund's net worth levered against AI, because all human progress is going to be derived from machines helping humans think and augment human thinking. And so whether it's owning NVIDIA, which is our largest public position, or whether it's Anthropic or OpenAI, all of these companies are going to be tremendous beneficiaries, and they're doing it at scale. There are increasing advantages to scale, right? And so I think it's hard for people to get their arms around now, just like it was in 2008 and 2009. But thank God Jeff Bezos did that. Now it's a $140 billion business, generating $30 billion a year in annual profits that people criticized him for investing in back then.
How
I mean, it's incredible that OpenAI and Anthropic are $20 billion run rate companies, generating profitable revenues, and accelerating growth all at the same time.
Right.
These are extraordinary things, and it makes perfect sense from where we sit.
How can we be so certain that the amount of compute we think we'll need and that we continue to hear from CEOs like you that we will need is actually going to come to fruition? Isn't it inevitable that we're going to, at some point, overdo it, but we're not going to know that until it's too late?
It's not like roads. Roads, once you lay it down, it stays fairly useful for a long time. The way computers work is you build up the infrastructure, but then you start replacing it 5, 6, 7 years later. And so I think it's going to take us some 7 years, 8 years to build up to the level that we have to sustain, and after that we're going to be refreshing and slightly growing. And so we've got several years of build out ahead of us. The important thing is this: you have to go back to first principles. Computing has fundamentally changed. It used to be pre-recorded. Excel and PowerPoint and all these tools and all this software is pre-compiled. They compiled it and they send it to us. The way software works now, because it's contextually aware, every single time you use it, it takes into consideration the context, who you are, what you're asking about, what's happening to the world, what other information you give it, the context. And every single context is different, and every single response is different. So from now on, every single pixel, every single beep of a sound, every video that comes out of the computer is generated in real time. And that's the reason why we need computers to operate software at such a large scale going forward. And all these tokens are what we call intelligence. And for the first time, we're generating something of tremendous value, intelligence as numbers. And these things, as I mentioned earlier, this last year, we went through an inflection point because these tokens became profitable. And so we just have to make more of it.
Can you blame, in some ways, investors who have PTSD from the last time tech went through this revolution and evolution at the same time for seeing certain things that remind them of then and worry that they'll happen again?
It's good to always reflect on history. History informs us, but history doesn't repeat. And so you have to take into consideration what's actually happening. Always go back to first principles and think about what is actually happening. Right now, the fundamental difference, a huge difference between now and some things that happened in the past with the internet, there was a ton of dark fiber. There are no dark GPUs. 100% of the GPUs are rented. In fact, GPUs that we sold 6 years ago, the prices are going up. It's not like it's antique. I mean, it's incredible. It's like a fine wine. The demand is so high that GPUs I sold 6 years ago are going up in price. And so I think the demand is just incredibly high for the reasons that I just said. One, we went through an inflection point. AI has become useful and very, very capable. Two, the adoption of it is incredibly high. And three, because these AIs are thinking, the amount of computation it needs is great. And so to the extent that people continue to pay for the AI and the AI companies are able to generate a profit from that, they're going to keep on doubling.